Something very disturbing is happening in 2020. You can say it's 2020. What are you talking about? You name it. I mean, they did find a nest of murder hornets. They were able to vacuum the entire nest up in Washington. So they're here. They're on the mainland. There's the coronavirus. They said aliens were found and nobody's paying attention. Not illegal aliens. Somewhere out there, aliens. There's mask mandates. There's BLM riots. There's Antifa riots. There's Chance Chop. The madness is here. But I think I found what the source of the madness is. It was on Stephen Colbert's show the other day. I think you'll know what I'm talking about when you hear it.
Because in those debates, you landed haymakers on Joe Biden. I mean, his teeth were like chiclets all over the stage. And now I believe you that you're fully supportive of him. How does that transition happen? How do you go from being such a passionate opponent on such bedrock principles for you, and now you guys seem to be pals?
It was a debate.
Not everybody landed punches like you did, though.
It was a debate.
So you don't mean it?
It was a debate. That the whole reason, literally, it was a debate. It was called a debate.
I understand.
Everyone traveled to the debate. There were journalists there covering the debate where there would be a debate.
You are listening to Ada Jet Noise, and this is the Morning Flyby.
Tell me that's not enough to bring the madness. The cackle, far worse than the Hillary cackle. Oh, that's the real debate. Whose ears can make, or whose cackle can make your ears bleed more? Good morning. Good morning, Flyby. According to Fox News, Senator Ron Wyden and Chuck Schumer wrote a letter to FBI Director Christopher Wray demanding the FBI reject pressure to investigate the Biden family after the Hunter Biden email story from the New York Post. We are deeply concerned about the possibility that in response to these reports, this is in part the letter, and in response to these reports, the Trump administration will take actions before Election Day that would seek to damage the Democratic presidential candidate and undermine the rule of law, as if everything they found on the laptop is not undermining the rule of law. The letter carries on, in carrying out this critical national security mission, law enforcement's handling of this matter must be above politics and beyond reproach. I therefore urge you to resist pressure from President Trump and other partisan actors to take any actions intended to benefit President Trump politically on the eve of this election. It's like the 4 years of what they did to this White House didn't happen. That is, if this investigation even happens. We all know that if Biden does win, this whole thing goes away. That goes without saying. Although, according to One American News, the FBI dropped the investigation into Hunter's laptop. Now, I searched, and I only got this source from One American News. I searched everywhere. I could not find anything that could back this up, but it seemed kind of important because One American News is not a flub source. But I don't know. Maybe there's somebody jumped the gun, or if the source is not necessarily reliable. But what they're saying is that the Department of Justice told the OAN, One American News, that the probe was dropped because the repair shop owner's story may not hold up in court. That despite all the evidence that he gave them. One caveat is that the leak itself might be fake, which is completely understandable. Is nobody can necessarily say that this. All the evidence is on the laptop, but it could be fake. Although, if it is indeed fake, you put a lot of work into into making the story up, and but the actual reason that it might be dropped is that back in November 2019 is when they found out about the laptop, and in December 2019 is when they actually had the laptop in hand. The FBI did. But they didn't do anything about it. It took to October 2020 to come up with some concern, or at least some public concern, about this laptop. The laptop contains information, a lot of information, that may implicate Joe Biden and his son and shady dealings in Ukraine and China and even Kazakhstan. There was evidence of sketchy dealings with China. There is evidence that Kamala Harris and Chuck Schumer are part of these shady dealings in China. I wonder why Chuck would send a letter to the FBI wanting this investigation stopped. But now you heard of Tony Bobulinski, who came out in a presser the other day and said the money was sent directly from China to the Biden family, and that the big guy, quote, the big guy, was getting a cut. Bobulinski was slated to speak with Senator Johnson's committee on Friday. However, the FBI halted the meeting. I'm assuming Mr. Bobulinski should look into a very good lawyer. And last week I told you about Bevan Cooney, who turned his emails over to Breitbart, his Gmail account, his entire Gmail account over to Breitbart, because he was a little tired of being in prison as a casualty of the Biden family in their shady dealings. But he turned those emails in hopes to clear a few things up, and all of a sudden now he's eerily quiet. Welcome to American politics, folks. More ballots dumped from the trash, or dumped into the trash. Oh, and this one is you'll see why this one stinks. Mail-in ballots from the military serving overseas were found in the trash in Pennsylvania. The ballots were discovered during an investigation into election issues in Luzerne County, Pennsylvania. Most of the discarded ballots had been for gas. Most of the ballots were for Trump. Yes, this, of course. Yes. Now, they mentioned just 9 ballots. They just mentioned 9 ballots. And 9 of the ballots, 7 of the ballots, I should say, 7 out of 9 of the ballots were for Trump. But they didn't mention how many ballots they actually found. They just mentioned the 9 ballots and 7 were for Trump. Look, This this comes on the heels of the ballots that were discovered in Wisconsin that were also ditched. Also, um, also heavy Trump. So this again, this is going to be a really I'll messed up election. The 2020 is going to be a weird election, and I just hope that truth and honesty prevail over all this. Look, well, I understand that this is all about Trump. The entire election is about Trump. Either you love Trump and you want him back in, or you hate Trump and you want to vote him out. That's completely understandable. But I mean, think about what we're talking about here. The military, these people that have volunteered to put their life on the line so we can, so like people like you and I can watch, I don't know, Handmaid's Tale or Tiger King or the NFL. It's bad enough that the NFL is already spitting on the military, but think about it. How selfish and evil do you have to be to just throw out the military's votes? You know, and if you're okay with that, if you're like, well, hell, well, anything to get rid of Trump, then you should be ashamed of yourself. It's it's far from immoral. Um, Warning reader data points. Um, this is cool. This is very very interesting, and it's actually growing. National Black Likely Voter job approval of the president has grown just last week. This is just last week's number. Has grown. Well, you'll see. You'll see. I'll give you the numbers day by day, and you tell me what you're catching here. On this is the week of October 19th through the 23rd, 2020. This is black likely voters and what they see, their approval, the number of people that approve of President Trump's the job that he's doing. Monday, 10/19. The week started off with the black likely voters. 25% had approved of the president's the work that he was doing in the White House. On Tuesday, 10/20, it dropped down a point, 24%. 24%. On Wednesday, it went from 24% on Tuesday to 31%. On Thursday, 10/22, it went from 31% to 37%. And on Friday, 10/23, he finished the week at 46%. Black likely voters from 25 to 46%. And granted, the 46% was after the debate. There's always going to be a spike in numbers after a debate, especially if the candidate actually does well. But the numbers bring to mind a phenomenon of white people's expectations of black voters. That's white liberals' expectations. I should be more clear. White liberals' expectations of black voters. Because last week we saw things like Chris Cuomo confronting Ice Cube for working with Trump. We saw Van Jones catching hell for saying that he's done good stuff, that the president's done good stuff for the black community. Van Jones, you giving him hell? Can anybody be more left than Van Jones? But he seems to be, he seems to like truth. So sometimes he can stray from that, because he's got to hold his ground. But every once in a while, the seed of truth comes out of Van Jones's mouth. People freaked out over Charlemagne the wannabe. Charlemagne the wannabe. I'm not going to call him what he wants to be called, because he understands clearly and clearly explains why black men will vote Trump, despite him not even voting for Trump. And Jennifer Aniston, she gets in this, discouraging people to not vote for Kanye West, and she called it not funny to vote for Kanye West. White people calling Candace Owens Nazi. And my favorite, oh, indeed, my favorite is Chelsea Handler reminding 50 Cent that he's black. Yes, and black people wouldn't vote for Trump. So Chelsea Handler, who used to write the Tilt-A-Whirl, the 50 Cent Tilt-A-Whirl, she even mentioned that she would be willing to take a ride again. If you know what I mean. Yeah, so there's Chelsea Handler telling 50 Cent that, hey, you're black. And she even offered to pay, because the whole thing with 50 Cent was that he was totally against the 62% tax rate that the Biden plan is proposing. So 50 was like, that was a closing deal. I'm voting for Trump, blah, blah, blah. And Chelsea's reminding him that he's black. And she even offered to pay his taxes. Pay his taxes if he voted Joe Biden. I don't think that's going to happen. I think 50's more about his money at this point. I know I'd want my money before I wanted Chelsea Handler. And in other white liberal news, white liberals knowing what's best for non-white people news, actor Mark Ruffalo recently came under fire on the Twitter, on the Twitters. Apparently Ruffalo was in a back and forth about immigration and decided to smart bomb the thread with a Hail Mary tweet, quote, "Unless you are a Native American, you are an immigrant in this country. Full stop." I don't know what that means, full stop. You guys tell me what full stop means. We all came here from somewhere else. We're living on their ancestral land. This is Mark Ruffalo's tweet. It continues. We all came from somewhere else. And as you might guess, Mark Ruffalo's misguided declaration touched more than a few hearts. Some of the Twitter responses for Mark Ruffalo's amazingly heartfelt tweet were, African Americans are not immigrants. We are enslaved, and we were enslaved and dragged here. Slavery is not immigration. You're too grown, and we're too far into 2020 for you to say something so ridiculous. Another tweeter wrote, "I remember the good old days where immigrants worked 9 to 5 on the cotton fields, earning a decent salary." Another tweeter wrote, my peeps were not born here and certainly did not immigrate. They were stolen from their home and brought here in chains. And this one, who really was not happy with Mr. Ruffalo, said, Native Americans came here from somewhere else too. You think they grew up out of the ground? Black Americans were brought against their will. Your ancestors were forced into 200 years, our ancestors were forced into 200 years of slavery to build this country. We aren't immigrants. You, Mark Ruffalo. So that didn't go well. And then lastly, I'm going to close here. It is Monday. The National File has obtained the diary of Ashley Blazer Biden, as if things were weird enough in the Biden family. The National File obtained the diary of Ashley Blazer Biden. And just as you might think, the daughter of Joe Biden. It dates back to 2000. It came from a whistleblower concerned that this media organization would not post it before the election. Biden's daughter, now 39, has a history of drugs, has been very sexual, to put it at best. At one point in the diary, Ashley complains she is literally in heat and thinks she needs sex to feel good. Ashley Blazer also said she believes she was abused as a child, but doesn't have a good memory about that. Some of the excerpts, after declaring she was here, quote, here for sexual trauma, the author explores the topic of sexual abuse and how it may have led to her overactive sex drive. Quote, I've had one of my hardest days. My sex drive is out of effing control. Like literally, I'm in heat, unquote. Another quote said, I know it's not the healthiest way to deal with things, but at least it's not drugs. I don't know if that's a crack at her brother. I don't know if she's necessarily, again, she was abusing drugs as well. So maybe at that point she was like weaning herself off of drugs, and sex was the only thing that was bringing her home. Because she wrote sex, she wrote that she needs sex to feel good. That was a quote as well. Ashley then explored why she felt this need to have sex, saying she believes she was molested as a child. She wrote, quote, I was molested. I think so. I can't remember specifics, but I do remember trauma. She then proceeded to list a series of potential incidents, one of which may have included Ashley's cousin Caroline Biden, where she recalls being somewhat sexualized alongside Caroline. And in what is at least for now, the most shocking revelation of this book that is desperately being held on ice until after the election, the author writes that she remembers, quote, showers with my dad, unquote. That were, again, quote, probably not appropriate. As if the family could not get any more weird. I gotta leave us with something a little bit more uplifting than showers with my dad.
Tricky thing, it's dust. It's a little tricky thing. Masks, no masks, everything. You can do all you want, but you still need help from the boss. We need help from the boss. That's what happened. We need help. Yeah, we need help. It's all right to say. Now, they'll criticize me for that. How dare he say that? How dare he say that? No, I'll say it. I'll say it. I'll say it. Somebody said to me the other day, you're the most famous person in the world by far. I said, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. He said, yes, you are. I said, no. He said, who's more famous? I said, Jesus Christ. I'm not taking any chances. I'm not going to have an argument. Hey, I'm not having any arguments. Jesus Christ. I'm not going to take any chances. I'll give it, I guarantee. And let me look up and I'll say, and it's not even close.
You were listening to A to Jet Noise. This was the morning flyby. Be good. Big hug. Be still. Enjoy your life.